Hi there, Jen Roque here at stampcampwithjen.com. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Summerfield, Florida, and welcome to today's craft video. Today I am sharing a video for cards that I made for my In Color Club. I normally try to keep them very simple, but this month I had a fun idea for a shaker card and I really wanted to share it with you. And I thought a video would be the best way to share exactly how I put this together. I also have a PDF tutorial with pictures at stampcampwithjen.com with this post. If you're watching from my YouTube channel, you can see the link in the description below. Also, if you're watching from my YouTube channel, please subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss a video, and give me a thumbs up or a heart and let me know in the comments below what you think of this video. I love hearing from you. All right, so this is an example of the In Color Club cards that I made for July 2022. If you don't know what In Color Club is something that I offer every year when the new In Colors come out. I send all of the In Colors to my customers over a 5-month period. So each month you'll get a different color, and by the end of 5 months you'll have everything included from Stampin' Up! That is in that In Color. So like ribbons, cardstock, designer series paper, everything. I also include a free gift every month, as well as an inspiration card with a PDF tutorial. I don't usually do a video, but like I said, I thought this would make it easier to see how to put this together. So if that's something you're interested in, please sign up for my newsletter so that you can see when my next In Color Club offering comes out. It's usually in April. I announce the details for it, and the sign-ups are due by the end of April. So be sure to sign up for my newsletter. You can always see the link at stampcampwithjen.com, but I will also include it in the description below of this video, okay? All right, so let's get started. So for these cards, I'm actually using the Tea Boutique cards and envelopes, okay? So I've made a bunch of these already, and I'm going to show you, this is my last one that I'm making today, and I'm going to show you how to make it in Orchid Oasis. So I'm going to fold my card base in half. So these come, these Tea Boutique cards and envelopes, they come in card bases, and they have coordinating envelopes that come in it as well, okay? So the envelopes go with the different card bases, and they feature all of the 2022 to 2024 In Colors. Very fun. So we're just gonna fold this one in half and set it aside for right now. So I'm gonna show you actually how I created this confetti. This I made all by myself. You can see I have a bunch of it here, and I'm gonna do my last sheet so you can see how to make it. So to make the confetti, we are actually gonna use the dots and spots die. This is how we're making our confetti today, okay? So I'm going to take that die off of here. And I also have my last piece, which is actually Tahitian Tide. So what I did for my confetti was I took a piece of cardstock in each of the In Colors, and I die cut it with this dots and spots die. So my last color, this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And so for my last confetti piece here, I'm just going to put this 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece down, and I'm going to put my die right over the top of it, trying to make sure that the edges are all within the spots here. You don't see like a line in the middle of any of the spots, and that looks good. So I'm going to put my cover piece over here, and I'm going to run this through my embossing machine. Oops, I can't do it with that hand. So moving it over, here we go. Okay, so we can carefully peel that up. And now you may notice some of your dots will stick to your plate. That's not a problem. You can just use your finger and kind of loosely peel them off and put them. I'm using the tray from the new Embossing Editions kit. And that's what I'm using to hold my confetti. This thing is awesome. The Embossing Editions kit comes with this tray, as well as an embossing buddy, which is an anti-static pouch. I have it right here, this embossing buddy. It comes with these awesome heavy duty tweezers that we're going to use later. And it comes with a little brush to brush away the embossing powders if you have little flyaways. So that's $27 and you can find it at stampinup.com. I highly recommend it. I love it so much. And the end of this tray actually screws off. I really like that. Okay, so for our spots, we're going to peel this piece off here, off the die. And I have a couple that are stuck in here, so I'm just going to use my finger to loosen them and get them out of the paper here. If you do end up die cutting like half of the little spots over there, you can throw those away or you can keep them. I don't think it was really going to make much of a difference. It's really your preference if it bothers you or not. So I'm just using my take your pick tool. It has a spatula end. When you open it, normally it comes with that spatula end showing. So all you have to do is twist and pull and turn it around and twist it back in, and you have this little pokey end here. And I'm just going to use that and poke through the holes that still have paper showing. And I'm doing that over my tray to catch all my confetti here. And I made sure my tray was clean beforehand. The important thing with this tray, especially if you use it with embossing powders tend to linger on the tray. So all I did was I rinsed it in a sink, in like my bathroom sink. I rinsed it out, got all the embossing powder off, and dried it really quickly. Really well to make sure there were no stray powders left on there, and it's like as good as new. So I definitely recommend doing that. If you use it with your embossing powders, make sure to clean it in between colors so you don't accidentally mix up your embossing colors and get your projects muddled. You don't want that. Okay, so there we go. So now we have all of our beautiful confetti, and that was how we made that. So easy. And then you can take your negative pieces, I guess, and you can save those for another project. So really great. All right, so now we are going to take another 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece, and we are actually going to use a frame from the Fabulous Frames dies. We're using that big frame that comes in there. So we're going to take this frame and we're going to die cut it on our embossing machine here. Let me pull it down so you can see it. And I'm just going to center that in the middle here. And run that through. And again, I'm right-handed, so I need to turn this around. All right, there we go. And so now you'll see, we can take this outer piece and just throw that away. This frame is what we're going to use for our card, and this actually is what we're going to use as a guide. Mine's sticking to this. We're going to use this as a guide to put our adhesive strips on our card, and I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. So we're going to grab our card back in here, and what I'm going to do with this piece, like I said, this is the die cut piece that was from the inside here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to loosely lay it down in the center of my card. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this as a guide as to where to put our adhesive strips. So I have these foam adhesive strips that we're going to use to make our shaker element here. It has a sticky side on the back here that's covered by like a backing. So we're not going to remove that just yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my foam adhesive strip right across the top here, and I'm going to make sure that it comes out a little bit past the edge, and you're just going to have the teensiest little bit. You want to go probably about 1/8 of an inch out from the edge of the center rectangle. And I'm just going to use my paper snips here and snip that off. And then what we're going to do, I'm going to take this leftover piece, and we're basically just going to kind of fill in all the way around, you want to use those foam adhesive strips to make like a rectangle. But you want, oops, and it's not super sticky, so if you accidentally put it in the wrong spot, you can lift it up and kind of reposition it. But it doesn't have to be perfect because it's all going to be covered up in the end, okay? So I'm going to take another strip and I'm going to position it right next to the end of that one. And again, kind of use my scissors and snip a little bit off there. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And if you happen to leave a little bit of a gap in between the edges here, it's not a huge deal. If you were using glitter or something really small, it would be a bigger deal. But since these confetti pieces are kind of chunky, if you have like a teensy bit of a gap here, it's not going to make a difference because that confetti is not going to fly through that little itty bitty gap. So I wouldn't stress about it too much. And like I said, I'm just making my little frame here using that rectangle as a little guide. And we're going to piece these little foam pieces in here. Try to cut a piece big enough. Might have been too big. If it is, it's okay. I'll cut it down. Oh, just right. Okay, so now we can take that rectangle piece out. It's done its job and we have a rough rectangle here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the cap off of our tray and I'm actually going to pour all that confetti in the center of my card here. And again, we're not removing that adhesive backing just yet. I'll tell you when to do that. Okay. So now we're just going to shake a little bit to make our confetti flat. And if a couple pieces fall out, just put them right back in there. It's okay, because the sides of this foam aren't sticky. It's this top part that's sticky. So that's why we're not taking that off just yet. So now we have a piece of window sheet that is 3.5 by 4 3/4. And this is actually going to go right over here. And I didn't want... It is a little staticky, and that's okay. Once you shake it a few times, the static will kind of settle a little bit. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to very carefully remove the backing from these foam strips. And if you hold your card down and you just carefully peel this away, it will easily come off and it won't jerk your card and send your confetti flying. You just have to do it slowly and carefully and hold your card down. And it comes off pretty easily. See, just like that. As long as you peel it nice and gently, it'll be fine. You can see my card's not really moving at all. So I don't have to worry about that confetti going all over the place. Okay, last one. There we go. So now I'm just going to take, excuse me, I'm just going to take my window sheet, and it's roughly the size of this rectangle that we made. And I'm just going to make sure, more than anything, that it's covering the edges of my frame. Oops, that one came up a little bit. That's okay. So just like that, you can see I'm pressing it down. And you'll notice like my edge over here, it's a little off center. It's not a big deal because this frame is going to completely cover all that up. So it's not a big deal if this part looks a little funky or ugly. So now what we're going to do to put this frame on, but what we did by taking that adhesive foam backing off and putting that window sheet on, now that confetti is completely locked in there. It's not going anywhere, okay? So to adhere our frame and cover the edges up here, I'm just going to take some liquid glue and I'm just going to put a little strip of liquid glue right above where the foam adhesive strips are. Just try to stay right above where that foam is. You don't want to go inside because then you run the risk of somebody seeing your glue on the inside there. And then I'm just going to gently put my frame right above where that adhesive is. Okay, and make sure it's centered and kind of rub my finger along it, make sure it'll adhere. Voila. So now we're gonna set this aside and let it dry while we work on the candles and the little sentiment that goes on the center here. So I'm gonna put this aside. Okay, so now for our candles, we're gonna take a scrap piece of the coordinating ink color. Like I said, I'm using Orchid Oasis, and I'm actually gonna take some adhesive sheets, and we're gonna put some adhesive sheets on the back of this piece here. So you'll notice with your adhesive sheets, they have little lines in the center, and that's to easily peel it off so that you can stick it onto your paper. So what I like to do, I don't need a huge piece, but I do need like a good strip. So I'm gonna take just a little strip off of here. And as long as we put it like right down on top of this paper, it'll be perfect because then I can just die cut my candles in a row. So I'm gonna take a piece off here. It's supposed to stay on this side, but for whatever reason, sometimes it comes off when I peel it, and that's not a problem because I can just stick it on my cardstock right here. Where'd it go? There it is. And I'm just gonna take those little sections. Oops. Actually, I'm gonna put some right next to each other. I think that'll be enough. I don't really need a ton of it, and I'll save this piece for another project. All right, so we're gonna take, and this is from the Sentiment Silhouettes dies. So we're using the Sentiment Silhouettes dies, and we're using the Charming Sentiments. We're using the Wishing You the Happiest of Birthdays, that's the sentiment on our card. And then the Sentiment Silhouettes dies we're using for the candles and to die cut that sentiment. I always recommend getting your bundle. That comes as a bundle together. It's called the Charming Sentiments Bundle, and you always get the 10% savings when you bundle together. So I always recommend that. All right, so we're gonna die cut. So we keep in mind that our adhesive's on the left side there. So I'm going to take my candle with the stripes and I'm gonna stick that over where the adhesive will be. And then I'm just taking a little piece of Daffodil Delight, and we're gonna use this little flame piece to die cut our flame. And then I have just a scrap strip of basic white, and there's this little like rectangle piece, that's the backing for our candle. So I'm gonna die cut 3 of these. I would have done it ahead of time to save time, but I wanted to show you how to put the adhesive backing on, and I'll show you how to remove that as well. So we're gonna do 3 of these. And what I like to do as I'm die cutting my candles, excuse me, I like to take my pieces and stick them on my silicone craft sheet so I don't lose them, for one, and I have them all in one spot. But also we're gonna end up sticking this Orchid Oasis piece right on top, and we're gonna use that craft sheet anyway. So I always go ahead and just stick my candles right on there. And I'm gonna have to poke out those pieces too. I'll do that after we're done die cutting here. Okay, and then we need 2 more. So we're just gonna die cut 2 more of these guys. And a flame. I don't know, you probably can't see. Die cutting. Okay. So there's my second flame. Another white candle backing piece, and then 1 more candle. And if it gets stuck in my die, which mine usually do, you just use your little, take your pick tool to poke those holes in the back there. All right, 1 more of each. And I'm just, I don't know if you can see here, I'm just sticking them all on my plate at the same time to save time. So you just run it through 3 times, you die cut them all at the same time. There's plenty of room. And we'll just run this through. This will be the last one. All right. And this one actually got stuck in here. But I love these dies because they all have little holes in the back of them. So if your paper ever gets stuck, you just use this little pokey end of your take your pick tool and you can poke that paper right out and pop it right out. It's a great little tool to have for so many things. We'll take that off here. And then our last flame right there. Oops. All right, I'll move that over. Okay, so now I'm just going to take, again, my take your pick tool and poke out all those little center stripe pieces there. And then you're going to use that little pokey piece and try to lift up. You just want to get it in between that adhesive backing and your paper so you can lift up that backing. There we go. And peel that off. So you'll notice this little piece is, I mean the whole thing is stuck, but the only piece that's gonna stick, or the whole thing has adhesive on the back of it, but the only thing that's gonna stick to this white is the rectangle. So this little top section is gonna have adhesive that's exposed. And that's not a huge deal, but just beware of that. So it could get a little sticky on your surface. So that's another reason to use this silicone craft sheet, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Okay, so poking these pieces out again, and all I'm doing is once I get that adhesive backing off, I'm just lining the bottom of this Orchid Oasis piece up with the white backing, and I'm just adhering it and sticking it onto that white backing. So we're just going to kind of use this tool to pull that backing off there. And get my flame out of the way. And because the silicone craft sheet is silicone, it prevents your pieces from really sliding, and it helps kind of keep them in place when you're trying to stick stuff. It's not real smooth, so it's not going to easily glide across your surface. All right, last one. These little pieces out. I love little interactive cards like this. I thought this would be super fun for anybody that loves like a shaker card or something that's interactive. It would be a cool card. Oops. All right, our last little backing piece off of here. There we go. Oops. Sometimes my nails make it a little tough to grab things too. So yeah, I'm just taking the bottom of this die cut and I'm just lining it up with the bottom of that white piece. And as I go down, I just line it up, just like that. And if it gets off a little bit, it's not a big deal. You can just take your scissors, if there's any white exposed on the edges, and you can just trim that little bit. Not a problem. I might have to trim a little bit more. There we go. Just like that. Okay, so now to get our flames on, where these little circles are on the top of our candles, I'm just going to take my liquid glue again, and I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive, a little bit of glue right on the top there. Oh, and everything's sticking to my fingers now. There we go. And I'm going to take this little flame, and I'm just going to stick it right down on top of that. And that's another reason to have this silicone mat, because that glue is most likely going to spill out over that little circle that we put it on. So you don't want to get glue all over your work surface and get it all sticky. All right, and one more little flame. Just like that. All right, and it gives you a little bit of glue, always gives you a little bit of time to kind of move whatever you're gluing down to make sure that you have it exactly where you want it, which I always love. I always appreciate the extra time that glue gives us. All right, so the last little thing with these flames for now, we're gonna take some Wink of Stella and we're gonna color the little Daffodil Delight flame tips here just to make them look shiny. Anybody that's been following me or watching me for a while, you know I like glimmer and glitz. So I have to have something a little shiny, and that's just the nice little touch there. So we're gonna let these dry for a second while we work on our sentiment. And because this is a silicone craft sheet, our adhesive isn't gonna stick to it. So if some adhesive does kind of spill out under our candles, we'll still be able to just peel them off when we're ready to use them. Okay, so now we're gonna take a piece of one more scrap paper. Let me grab something here. Okay. And we're going to use the sentiment from that Charming Sentiment stamp set here, though wishing you the happiest of birthdays. And we're going to stamp that in our coordinating ink color of Orchid Oasis here. And I'm just going to ink this up. Oops. We're going to stamp right on it. Doesn't really matter exactly where you stamp it, just stamp it on there because we're going to die cut it out. So it doesn't have to be like perfect, you just have to die cut it. And then we're going to take this little die cut that fits right around it and we're going to die cut our sentiment out here. So we're just going to line it up so that you can see that it's even right around there. Looks good. We'll die cut that. Perfect. And now we have our little sentiment that we're going to use. So I did want to show you guys something too. You might have noticed that I am using my magnetic cutting plate that I got from Stampin' Up. They did turn this off because, and I noticed this earlier when I was playing with it, I've used it enough that it is starting to lift, and that is what the defect is with this plate, why they've cut it off, is that the layers in between here start to separate, the glue starts to separate and lift. So that's why they're not selling this anymore. They're trying to go back to the drawing board and get something a little bit better and figure out why that glue is separating. But if you ordered one of these, you should have received a refund already from Stampin' Up. If you haven't, I highly recommend that you call them at 1-800-STAMP-UP and ask about your refund because they said that they were going to automatically refund those to people. So I'm using mine until I can't use it anymore, which is probably going to be soon. I don't recommend that though. If you have one, just stop using it. But I wanted to keep using it to see how far I could take it. And so far it is starting to lift a little bit there. Okay, so back to our project here. So now we're going to bring in our card. And what I like to do is kind of lay everything down first and kind of see where exactly I want everything to lay before I glue it down. So we're going to put our candles in the top here. And I might move this down just a little bit. I want probably about 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch of space in between the bottom of the frame and the top of the candles. And I like it so the middle candle is straight and then the other two are kind of sticking out at an angle just a little bit. And then the sentiment right below it. I just thought that was really fun. All right, so we're going to bring our silicone mat in again and we're going to use these handy dandy tweezers. Now I like to start with the one in the middle to center it, and then I move to the candles on the outside. So I'm actually going to hold this in the center, and again with our liquid glue, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the bottom here and a little bit in the center. Now you don't want to put a ton of glue on here, because once you put it down on this window sheet, you don't have time to move anything around. You really want to make sure that you have it about where you want it, because if you wiggle or try to reposition, that glue is going to show up on that window sheet. So really try to make sure that you have it about where you want it and don't move it around too much so that that glue doesn't show. So I'm going to put it right about here, and I'm just going to drop it down. And it's not completely down yet, so it's okay that it moved. But once you press it down about where you want it, don't wiggle it around too much, because that glue will start to spread. And that's also why you don't want to put a big glob of glue down, because if you do and you go to push your candle down, that glue is going to spread out from under your candle and you're going to have a big gluey mess. So you don't want to do that. And the candle flames will keep popping up as they're drying. I will occasionally push them back down until they're fully dry and stuck onto the window sheet. So again, just a little bit of glue here, a little line here and here. Position it about where you want it to be and gently let go of the tweezers. And then, like I said, don't move it too much, because you'll start to see that glue seeping out, and you don't want a big gluey mess all over your window sheet. So again, just a teeny bit here, teeny bit in the center, there. And if you do happen to put too much glue on it, just wipe some of it off before you put it down. It's better to do that than to have a big smudgy mess on your window sheet. But that's where these tweezers come in handy too. And if it does come out like you kind of see here, I've got a little bit of glue kind of seeping out. It's not a huge deal if you have a little bit that shows. It will dry clear. Somebody might notice it. They probably won't. They'll probably just be so impressed with your shaker card that they won't even care, to be honest. Okay, and then for this one, I'm actually going to grab it a little bit more in the center, because I want to make sure that my edges here get some glue. But again, I'm using a very, very light coating. Light coating. We don't want big globs of glue. And I'm just going to put this centered under my candles here. And then use your fingers to kind of press it down. And you are going to have to hold it in place for a little bit while everything dries. And that's another thing too. If you put too much glue on it, it's going to take longer to dry, and you're going to have to sit here even longer holding it down until it sticks to the window sheet. So that's another reason you don't want a ton of glue on here. I noticed that with a couple of my other cards that I was working on. I had a little bit more glue than I intended, and then like the ends kept flapping up. But you just have to keep kind of pressing down occasionally as it's drying. And that's it. So let me show you all the other in colors. They're so pretty. I love how they came out. I was so excited about it. So we just did Orchid Oasis. And then this one is Starry Sky. And this one is Tahitian Tide. And then we have Parakeet Party here. And Sweet Sorbet. I just love how these came out. They look so, so pretty here. I like to put them in a certain order. Put this one down like that. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see. All right, guys. Well, I hope that you really enjoyed this tutorial and you got some helpful tips. Like I said, if you're new to my YouTube channel, please subscribe and then click that bell so you never miss a video. Also, give me a thumbs up or a heart on this video and let me know in the comments below what you think. I love hearing from you. Don't forget to sign up for my newsletter if you haven't already. And if you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to earn your business. I send a free gift out with each order that I receive from customers, as well as an inspiration card and a little bit of candy. And I'd love if you would order through me. I'd really appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, until next time, be safe and happy stamping. Bye-bye.